Hello, New York City Charter Schools. This is Tracy Davey with a video regarding how to report Title I Part A set-aside funds in the Program Facts template of Level 0 for the 1920 school year. Here is some information from page 46 of the SIRS manual. The Student Information Repository System is what SIRS stands for, and that's really the data warehouse. Right here, the state and federal government require information regarding your homeless students. This is an accountability group that is reported publicly on your school report card. And for every student who is homeless, they will have a program service record of 8262. And when that record is established, your school also would have had to report their primary nighttime residence. That's information regarding whether or not they were in a shelter or in doubled up with another family and whatnot. This information is reported directly to the NYC DOE. Once a student is identified as homeless, there is 2 additional pieces of information that needs to be reported. The DOE also collects the first item shown here, whether or not your students are unaccompanied youth, and it could be both, whether or not your students are receiving any services using Title I Part A set-aside funds. This last section of the SIRS manual on homeless is identifying that the primary residence only needs to be reported the first time the record is created, and that does not have to be updated throughout the year. It's just the initial residence, where they slept that night when they were first identified. If your student is no longer homeless, then you can have an end date on that record because they're no longer homeless. Okay, let's take a look at who, what, where, and when, everything you need to know to complete this reporting. First, you'll need to know who your homeless students are. You'll want to make sure that you understand whether or not your school received any Title I Part A monies and how you might have spent them to determine which students need this reporting. Next, you need to know who, what, and where. Who are your homeless students? You can find that information in Level 0 or in ReportNet. You want to know what services are provided with these Title I monies and whether or not your school receives them. And then you'll want to confirm that your homeless students did indeed receive some supports based on these funds. In Level 0, I'm going to show you this one. It might be the easiest way to find the information. From the home screen in the dashboard that you see there, you can tap on Program Facts, and then you'll see this blue box on your screen, and you want to look at a category breakdown regarding all the different program facts. As you see here, there's lots of zeros, but the City Department of Education does have information in all the required places. In Level 0, we are only seeing the items that we are helping the city to collect additional information on, which is your students who have been identified as eligible as English language learners for support there, and we also are collecting what type of program they're in. And then in this video, what we're chatting about, of course, is your homeless students. Note here on the screen that it's letting you know that whenever a line is highlighted in red, it means that the number has changed more than 10% from the prior school year. So we can see that eligible, there were 4 students last year and currently this year. This year, we now have homeless students, but in the previous year, we did not. And that's fine. We didn't post any homeless information here last year because we weren't working with that in Level 0. Focusing in on this line of homeless student, although this is true even in a SIRS report in L2RPT, when you see a number that is underlined, it's identifying for you that by tapping here, you can drill down and see the names of the students who are being included in this count. I did so for my sample school to show you now I have the names of the kiddos who are identified as homeless. This information can only be changed, who is homeless or not, in the source system for the Department of Education. In Level 0, we can only work with the records that we have here and determining and reporting the additional piece of information as to whether or not they receive support based on those Title I set-aside monies. When you're on the screen, you can either download the information to a CSV file to throw into Excel, or you can just do a print screen and have that information there. Interestingly, actually, if you click and drag and highlight all this information, you can just right-click copy and drop it into a Word document too. So now, what else do you need to know to determine if any of those kids on that list need this reporting? We have 2 reports on our website. If you hover over resources and go to reporting documentation, you'll see a couple of helpful hints here regarding homeless reporting. First of all is a list of the allotments. This information came directly off the state education's website. Under transparency, they report which schools receive what kinds of funds. So now you'll be able to identify how much money was allotted to your school over the 1920 school year. And right here, this web address is where this data is posted publicly on State Ed's website. This next document is a compilation of 2 things that I thought you would need. One is the definition that I reviewed first in this webinar, and then now also the exact list, and it does extend beyond this view, of what items you can purchase or spend on students that under the Title I Part A set-asides. At this point, you probably want to call a friend. You want to know where in level 0 are you reporting this information on the correct kiddos. And it's that friend, somebody at your school, who's going to be able to tell you, yes, we spent money on these kids. You don't need to know how much or where, when, or why. You just need to know that does James, Mary, and John all need another record reported in level 0 to say that they did receive some support based on your Title I funds. Once you have that information, you'll be able to complete that reporting. So to get started on this, you're going to want to grab your list, make sure you understand whether or not your school received any money, and most charter schools did, and what that money could have been spent on, and then confirm with someone at your school, maybe a principal, guidance office secretary, a homeless liaison might be the most likely person who's going to be able to tell you whether or not that happened. And then you'll be ready to do the reporting. This is a quick view of the manual input page in level 0. Counted off 5. There's 5 places in here, where the data has to be touched on that screen. You actually don't even have to retype once you open up and search for a kiddo. You can add information. The first 2 fields will automatically be populated. You would add a start date. You would look at, actually this one right here shows the L eligibility record, but you want to know when that other service, when did their homeless service start. You'll put that start date in here. In the drop down here for record program category, you need to choose ESSA. ESSA is the Educational Law Elementary Secondary Educational Act. This information was under, I want to say, the Bush administration, regarding rules in education, funding, and how that funding should be spent. Once you choose this ESSA item in this drop-down for program category, the next field is automatically populated with this 0892 for Title I Part A services provided to the student. All you would have to do at that point is to tap on validate and save, and you're actually done reporting for that kiddo. It took me way longer to explain that than what it will ever take you to do that reporting. And ReportNet, if you have many, many students who need this reporting, maybe like even more than 3 dozen, I would recommend using ReportNet. It'll give you 1 line per student. You would just identify if there's any students who did not receive this money and totally delete their line. And the rest of the students, you can upload the information. That extract will actually be pre-populated with every field that needs to be completed, ready for upload. If you're doing it manually in level 0, you're just going to pull up the right kids, make a couple of taps, save it, and keep going. Please know that any time that you change data in level 0, whether you corrected a record, added a record, or deleted a record, you need to complete the L1 data prep process. So once you've completed this reporting, either importing it electronically, which will be another video, or the whole, then you're going to hover over the L1 data prep process, tap on the template that you just touched, This will be the pop-up menu that you have for program facts. You need to choose that ESSA because that's the data we're reporting. Then tap on Validate Now so that additional data quality checks can be run to ensure that your data is ready for transfer. And always, always, always tap on the Create File for Level 1 submission. We always move the data to the city and they submit it to State Ed for you. So, in case you're asking, how does ReportNet or Level 0 know which students are homeless? Each week we get a data file from the city giving us basic information about your students, who are your students in a demographic record, an enrollment record for when they started and or exited from your school, and also these program facts for the data that we're helping the city collect additional information on. If a homeless record has an end date, do you still need to do this reporting regarding the Title I Part A set-aside funds? Yes. You just need to identify that during that time period, this student received supports based on those monies, and you're going to add that record. Whenever you need technical assistance in Level 0 or ReportNet, give us a call at 631-218-4134. I mean that literally when we say call us if you need us, because this is very technical. It can be confusing. You may stump me. We're definitely going to want to make sure you have all the answers you need to get this reporting done. And a word from our sponsors. Thank you for joining me.